We are in the life of a somewhat shy and introverted high school student named Kamita. He has no direction. He has not decided what to do with his life. In the high school of the protagonist where we meet Hikari, the popular girl of the class, who loves to bother Kamita in many possible ways such as sitting in her seat. But all this has an end because deep down she is crazy about the protagonist. Kami returns home where she starts playing a board game with her sister, at her request, but in the end the girl ends up stressing out and ends the game. Before going to her room, she talks a little bit with the main character about his midterm because his mother is very angry and worried about him. Kami clarifies that he still doesn't know what he is going to do with his life but mentions that he will find out. His sister's eyes light up as she is eager to help him as much as possible. The next day, Kamita is in the school cafeteria where he is called by the group of girls to sit with them. There they start to make fun because a teacher said that he could be a manga illustrator. The main character doesn't care, but they embarrass him, saying that he would be an erotic illustrator since he always hangs out with his friend. The girls take advantage of this gift to keep bothering him by questioning his sexuality. After lunch, the main character goes to the library because he is going to study with his friend Ikuo for his midterm. When they are quiet again appears the girl begging Ikuo to teach her too because she has a family trip, but because of her low grades she will be punished. She begs a little until she convinces the guy. Despite all the signs that the main character was making to her, they have physical education class, so they are in the athletics track, where the boys are talking. Ikuo tells him that she was seen with a much older boy who was not her father. The protagonist handles the situation as he can and continues with his week, which continues to study hard, and the day of the delivery of grades he realizes that he was amazing, being one of the best in his class due to so much effort. A girl named Kyoko arrives to congratulate the protagonist. She tells him that he is becoming very popular among the girls, and before leaving, she asks him to teach her Japanese another day so that she can also improve her grades. Left alone, the protagonist with his friend asks Kami if he doesn't want to go to a camp with his academy. They are going to spend 2 weeks in the mountains, studying. Kami says he doesn't know, he has to think about it, so he proposes to go to an arcade to relax. When they leave the arcade, they meet a new guy named Araki, who tells them that the third-year students will take second-year girls on their trip, telling Hikari to make the main character uncomfortable, losing the desire to play, so he returns home. On the way he passes by a pastry shop where he sees the girl with the older guy he was told about. He is a bit jealous, not being able to stand the situation. He calls his friend to accept the study camp. When he is in his room he starts to pack his suitcase to make the necessary preparations for the camp. His sister sees him a little nervous, so she encourages him, since it will be a good opportunity to meet new people. The next day, very early in the morning, he starts the bus trip. When he arrives at the lodge, the protagonist is very excited by some candy he ate. He notices a girl in a window in the distance, but she disappears. So his friend tells him the legend that there is a ghost of a girl who killed herself. They are sent to the boardroom to explain the rules. Already at night, Kami is overwhelmed by the amount of questionnaires, plus he did not do very well to say, ending up very tired, so he goes to sleep, totally regretting having come there. He goes out the window to get some air. But he is frightened by a girl, who crawls on the floor until she reaches the protagonist. The girl just ends up taking a towel. Kami realizes that Hikari, her friend, asks her what she is doing here. So the girl answers that she was brought here by force because she was so lazy, and she was caught working without permission. The girl tries to run away from the lodge, but to no avail because of the rain. The girl turns out to be sick because of her wet clothes, so she takes Kamita's clothes and leaves, saying goodbye. The protagonist watches as she walks off into the distance, fantasizing a bit. At night he dreams of his friend, a rather strange dream. The day goes on as usual, until lunch, where they sit together, and the girl brings a new friend from her class, which is the worst of all, called Immediate Salvation. The most particular thing is that they only created that class for the two of them, because they are very gross. The girl's day goes as expected. They spend it studying, and Hikari was forced to clean the bathrooms because of her escape attempt. They go to the laundry, where she is helped by her friend since she has no experience washing her clothes. The girl asks Hikari if she is the girlfriend of the main character, because she was seen leaving his room. A lot of rumors have been created about her. Hearing all this, she plays along as she wants to see the world burn. We return to the protagonist who is choosing a coffee, but hides when he sees two girls who were criticizing Hikari. The protagonist gets fed up, so he comes out to confront her. He shouts saying that they didn't do anything erotic, but as he explains, the girl duo arrives to give him the clothes, but embarrasses him, as deep down he was feeling a bit jealous. Hikari drags the protagonist to a place where they are alone, so that no new rumors are created about them. Cammy is surprised since he did not see her as someone who does housework. The girl is offended since she is a very good cook, so she promises to prepare him something tasty and does not end up giving him anything. In the end, she turns out to be a very good cook, preparing an omelette, delighting the whole group of friends. Maku screws the protagonist a little by saying that they look like spouses. The surprised protagonist ends up getting stuck, which is very funny for everyone. Later on, the protagonist ends up convincing the girl not to run away again because she might get hurt. Hikari, seeing the protagonist concern, ends up accepting. In the protagonist class arrive the duo of girls since they were promoted for their effort. Now they will be in his class. The protagonist a little embarrassed since the others in the class are watching them. The day goes by normally until the evening arrives when the protagonist is alone in his room reviewing. But he is interrupted by Hikari, who enters his room. The girl is surprised by the ramen she was eating since it is a flavor she had never tasted before. So she eats what's left of the soup. Hikari fucks around and annoys Cammy a bit, preventing him from concentrating. She even teases him a bit, seducing him to look at a swimsuit she brought, so she sneaks him into the hot tub. While there, Hikari asks him how the bikini looks on him. Cammy is nervous and embarrassed, but says it looks beautiful on him. When they are inside the jacuzzi, the girl starts asking weird questions, making Cammy's little friend fuss. A teacher arrives at the jacuzzi and scolds the main character for being there, so the only thing he can think of is to make him uncomfortable. The teacher gets very uncomfortable, so he runs away to avoid the situation. Left alone again, the girl congratulates him but ends up fainting. The protagonist reacts by taking her to his room, very worried. The girl says that nothing is wrong and they go to get some fresh air. They sit outside to observe nature. They talk a little, but the protagonist speaks more, revealing that he already knew that she was working. The girl doubts since she thinks he was the one who told on her to her parents. The prota denies it since he only saw her with someone older. Hikari clarifies that he was the owner and even has a wife. After the talk, they return to their rooms. A week passes and it is time to leave the camp. Hikari arrives home and immediately starts talking to her friend, telling her what happened. She says that everything was very boring. They return to class, but her sister is a little worried because she hasn't left the house since she came home from camp, so she tells her to socialize a little more. The main character accepts and sees Hikari in the distance. But when she notices him, she hurries her pace because she still believes that he was the one who betrayed her. The protagonist goes to the living room, finding the girls talking about Araki and his new partner, so Cammy wonders if he will ever have that chance with Hikari. In his stall, he finds a note. Reading it, he pays attention to it. He goes behind the school where Hikari appears to give him the clothes he had lent her at the camp. Also, he mentions to her not to say anything that he was with her. The protagonist is a bit stubborn as he thinks she is embarrassed to be seen with him. They are interrupted by a girl from the discipline committee named Kamizaki who is watching them so that they don't do anything inappropriate at school, but it's not going very well since she couldn't interrupt a couple. Also, she finds out that the girl revealed that someone from the school was working. Hikari angrily heads over there. She finds her friend Takato, who confronts her and asks her why she told on her, so she confesses that it was to get her out of Araki's way, since she also liked him. Hikari doesn't care, since she told him the truth. She doesn't get angry because she wants to see her friend happy. She gives her shit about the protagonist, so she invites him to a full dinner. Even though everything would have ended well, she feels a little jealous since her friend had a boyfriend. Besides, she missed going to the beach. The protagonist, upon hearing everything, invites her to the beach. On the beach, they have a nice time. Even the protagonist falls into the sea for playing ball with the girl. But a wave ends up dragging the girl too, causing her to end up all wet. Because of this, his underwear is marked. The girl calls him a pervert for looking at her, so they both feel sorry. But the girl remembers when they were in the jacuzzi. Hikari throws herself on top of the protagonist as she wants to make a fuss over her little friend. They take advantage of the situation and give each other a sweet kiss. In the darkness of the night, the girl changes, putting on the protagonist clothes again. The protagonist is determined to propose, but first he is interrupted by the girl, who tells him that she is going to be a cook, so she must go away to train after graduation. Kami puts on his best face and accepts the deal. The year goes on where he studies and gets into college, and years later he finds a part-time job where Hikari used to work, to get experience in his dream as a food manager. His boss tells him that he will be absent due to his son. He will bring a replacement from Spain. When he arrives, he realizes that it is Hikari and they have a nice reunion. We begin a new arc of our protagonist, where we meet Miyamae. She interrupts the group in their game schedule, since she wanted to trade with them. When they start playing with her, the trio of friends realizes that she is very good, even surpasses them by far. Miyamae's friends arrive and end up dragging her away. The next day, the trio of friends return to their secret place, to continue playing and find Miyamae lying on the chairs. The girl, noticing their presence, comments that they should continue with the trade, so the main character accepts. They end up in a karaoke at the request of the girl. The protagonist and Ikuo are worried because the only songs they know are anime songs. But the girl shuts them up, singing an anime song, proving that she is very otaku. They sit down to exchange items and talk about a new game coming out soon, so Miyamae mentions that she already reserved it, so they decide to play it all together. Time goes by and they even buy a chair just for the girl. They all sit down to play the new video game, create their characters and start the game. It turns out to be a very difficult game where everyone dies. This excites the boys as they will have to spend a lot of time on it, until they can be good at it. Miyamae's friends notice that she has been playing a lot with the main character's group, so they are happy for her since she finally found someone who shares the same tastes. The next day they play, where they defeat a boss of a level. The girl takes advantage by giving him a keychain with her character on it, making the main character happy. After school, they go to an arcade. Miyamae is a bit nostalgic because she hasn't been there since high school. She stares at some machines, so Kami encourages her to go and play. A duo of elementary school kids challenge them on the machines, as they hate to see couples. The protagonist doesn't think it's a problem, but he's not that skilled. Instead, Miyamae defeats them, carving it up in an impressive way. The protagonist gives them the keychain to teach them not to hate women. Miyamae is a bit excited as she doesn't remember what it was like to play this great game, and even blushes a bit. Araki and Ikuo arrive full of stuffed animals, wondering what they were doing, so they clarify that they were just playing Gao-Esser. Miyamae asks the main character if he would like to be her duo for this game, so the main character happily accepts. The game group manages to defeat an important boss, but Miyamae has to leave because she has a physical education class. The boys are left alone and the main character complains that he is running out of money from playing Gao-Esser. Ikuo recommends him to look for another game. That same afternoon the main character tries it, but to no avail. So he goes back to play Gao-Esser, playing with the first one he was playing. The protagonist meets Kyoko and a friend, the same one from the disciplinary committee. They beg the protagonist not to tell anything to the school. The conversation is interrupted by Miyamae, who tells Kami that he has to go to his academy, so they say goodbye. Our protagonist goes to the girls' academy to gather information, but when he arrives he finds Ikuo and Miyamae together, entering the academy. The protagonist is somewhat jealous. When he arrives home he goes to his sister to ask what they think of Ikuo, but the sister sees that it is a trick question since it actually refers to what the girls think about him. The protagonist runs away from the situation when he is found out. The next day they return to the arcade. Miyamae has become very famous among fans of the title because she is very good. Hikari arrives with the boy from the other time, asking Miyamae for revenge for having humiliated the boy. The match starts. It is very close since they have very even levels. But Miyamae takes advantage of a mistake of Hikari, attacking her from behind, making her lose. With the victory for the protagonist team, they plan to do a rematch, but they are interrupted, as they must flee, because the president of the disciplinary committee has arrived. They go to an alley so as not to be seen. Once there, Hikari explains that the boy is the son of his boss. He is helping him in his little revenge, but he can't do anything more, so he gives up. Hikari is jealous and warns the protagonist to stay away from Miyamae as it is not good for him. Miyamae is a bit sad and walks away from the protagonist, but he stops her and asks her to go to a cafeteria to eat. At the cafeteria, they talk a bit about Miyamae's childhood since Hikari was her old playmate, but now she has more fun with the main character and her friends. At that moment he gets the notification of the deer game, indicating that he has reached the maximum level and that it is necessary to mate, so the protagonist offers. He starts the game so that the two deer can have offspring. It takes a long time until they succeed. They continue talking and have a nice evening. The next day at school, the protagonist goes to see his friends who were forced to clean the rabbit stable because they were caught in the arcade. Kami takes advantage of the conversation and asks Ikuo why he was with Miyamae at the academy, to which he replies that he was looking for his first love, since he is at the same academy. Because of this action, his friends realize that he is crazy about Miyamae, giving him a free way to conquer her. Kami looks for Hikari to have an important talk. Being alone, he asks her why she said that's so strange. Hikari tells Hikari that they were part of the same group of gamers, but they were separated little by little, because Miyamae was very good, which affected the ego every time they lost. In the end they all stopped playing, except her. At the end of the conversation, Hikari clarifies that he would be a good duo with Miyamae because he does not have great pride. After the conversation, the main character calls Miyamae, since she didn't go to school. Miyamae answers all sleepy, saying that she fell asleep because she played so much. Miyamae proposes to the protagonist to go to her house to continue playing Gao Esser, because they can't go back to the arcade. The protagonist is a little nervous because it will be the first time he goes to a girl's house. After class, he goes to the principal's office, and when he knocks on the door, Miyamae's older brother, Soto, opens the door. They sit down to talk in the living room. We find out that he is an academy teacher as well as a former gamer. Soto is excited because his sister finally has normal friends, so to annoy her a little he plays a video of her as a child, where she looks very cute. Miyamae arrives turning off the TV and dragging him to the room. When he arrives, Miyamae sees a shelf full of stuffed animals. Miyamae allows him to take some, so in the end the protagonist takes a bunny rabbit all cuddly. They talk about what Miyamae will do in the future, what she will do for a living. The protagonist suggests that she should be a stuffed animal creator since she has a talent for making children happy. Miyamae gets nervous, so she changes the subject and sits down to play. The girl asks about the others, so Kami says that they won't be able to play for a long time because they were punished. This makes the girl's head ring, making her sad because she thinks it's the same as when she was a child, so she tries to be alone. She even calls Hikari to confront her again, but she refuses since she stopped playing a long time ago. The protagonist insists, until he convinces her, taking her to an old arcade. This room is full of arcades. The couple plays an arcade soccer game. They finish the game, but Miyamae is cut because of the control, so the protagonist takes out some band-aids and puts it on the wound. Miyamae thinks a lot and finally says that he is going to take a break from the games to improve his grades. Kami accepts without a fight. He can look for him where they always met. Several weeks go by and the main character is bored of playing alone. While he is lying there thinking, the girl arrives to show him a handicraft she has made. Miyamae invites the protagonist to go to Kamina, an anime convention, and the protagonist accepts without thinking twice. Already at the convention it is crowded and he hates crowds. Arriving at Miyamae's booth, he doesn't recognize her because she has a cosplay of her bunny character. but she is very embarrassed by the amount of people. The idea is to sell her stuffed animals and products, but to no avail, as two girls who approached were shooed away by the protagonist, since he talked too much. The main character comes up with a sales idea which consists of sticking the deer stuffed animals on the cosplay, as if it were a medal. But trying to try it at various points ends up distressing Miyamae, causing her to run from grief. The protagonist goes running to look for her, but she is cornered by paparazzi and it is impossible to get her out of there. Her sister arrives with her cosplay, attracting all the attention, giving the protagonist a chance to take her away. When she is in a safe place, she asks the protagonist to help her to take off her costume because she wants to go to the bathroom. The zipper is on her back, a place that Miyamae can't reach. The protagonist looks at the zipper and realizes that it is not in the back, but in a questionable part. In the end, Cammy can't stand the pain, making the girl do it by herself. They return to the event where they enjoy it to the fullest. Already in the evening, they all go to a cafeteria to eat to celebrate the great day. They finish dinner and on the way out Miyamae gets angry with the main character, because he complimented how good Hikari's uniform looks on her. Miyamae walks away all sad, to which Cammy has to go after her. When he catches up with her, she comments very stubborn since he didn't flatter her all day. Upon revealing his motive, the protagonist indicates that they have not kept the promise of the date, so he wants to fulfill it at that moment, since she will no longer have time for him because of his studies, so he proposes to her. Miyamae does not know how to react since she is not an expert in these things. She gives him 2 hickeys as a token of affection. Cammy controls this moment, ending the date with a sweet kiss. They officially become sweethearts. They spend several years of relationship where Miyamae becomes a teacher of an elementary school and our protagonist the driver of the same. They even become a family. The protagonist's new arc with his childhood friend, Kyoko, has begun. This is a first-year girl who takes the protagonist out of the classroom because she is going to give him new volumes of a manga they read when they were kids. But the protagonist rejects her since the manga has taken a somewhat perverted turn. He has enough, being treated as a gamer. Kyoko invites the protagonist to a new cake cafe that has opened in town. But questioning his sexuality since he looks like a woman, it wouldn't be that much of a problem to go there, to which Cammy is a bit offended. On the way they meet 2 children, playing Gao Esser and doing their poses. Cammy teaches the children a pose. Back at the cafeteria, Cammy proves his manhood by eating too much. Kyoko asks him about Hikari. The protagonist denies any chance. She is the most popular girl in his class and it is obvious that he wouldn't stand a chance. Upon arriving home, the protagonist talks to his sister, because she was on the roof with a boy. She clarifies that she was simply proposed to, but rejected him. He invites Kyoko to propose to him since it is clear that she is crazy about him. This greatly distresses Cammy. In the end, all this was a lie and the talk was about collecting money for a school activity. On the other hand, Kyoko, who feels that she is too childish for the main character, decides to donate her entire manga collection, but is rejected by the library, and sits down in a park to rest and think about what she is going to do. 2 girls from the school's domestic activities club arrive, so they invite her that same night to participate in an activity, which will help her to stop feeling like that. Kyoko forces the main character to accompany her. When they arrive, they find Kaharu and Nao cooking something in a room. They send the protagonist to organize a table outside. When they are alone with Kyoko, they change her clothes. The 3 girls come out dressed in a traditional kimono. They look beautiful. They sit down to eat what they have prepared while looking at the full moon. The main character asks why they ask for second-hand clothes. At that moment, the former president arrives and explains that the budget is not enough, so they make clothes to order. Kyoko decided to join the club for all its activities. Cammy has no choice but to accept the decision without further ado. He has started the preparations for the Christmas festival where Hikari has to prepare roast meat. The main character is left alone in the living room because he is not interested in much. Ikuo approaches apologizing, because they will not be able to see each other after the festival as they always do, because he will have a date with the girl he likes. Cammy does not see any problem. Instead, he wishes him luck with his first love. On the other hand, the Club of Domestic Activities is being blackmailed by the president of the disciplinary committee. She is asking them to make Christmas decorations for the festival. If they refuse, she will take action on each of the offenses committed since April by their club. Being cornered, they end up agreeing. Cammy goes to see how Kyoko is doing. She finds her asleep on the sofa but dressed strangely. She is modeling a cosplay made by the club. The girl takes advantage of the situation and gives him a taste of a cake that she learned the recipe to raise funds for the Christmas festival. Our protagonist, when tasting the cake, is surprised by how good it is and by the amount of things he has learned. The protagonist tries to ask her out, but does not have the courage, which makes him stutter. The next day he goes to Hikari to ask for some advice, where to take her after the Christmas festival. The girl gets excited for the protagonist, so she gives him some adult ideas, making the protagonist nervous. Cammy goes to the club again, but bumps into the discipline chairwoman coming out of the room, as she didn't like the design they made for the ornament, ordering them to repeat it because the one they made was too creepy. Kyoko and the protagonist go to the house to get old clothes to reuse as material. The girl, out of boredom, tries on one of the protagonist's pajamas from when they were children, since she had always liked them. Cammy, seeing his attitude, gives him a coat that he used to wear in high school, and she also liked it from that time. On the way to high school, the protagonist takes courage and shows her different coffee shops, but an advertisement for a motel appears, causing him to damage the moment to ask her out. Kyoko sends him to the friend zone, saying a lame excuse. All this was being seen by the girls of the club from the shadows. Upon returning to the room, they confront her, asking why she rejected him, making him realize that he doesn't see her as a boy but as a man. Kyoko ends up asking the girls for help. The next day, the group of girls go to look for the most experienced person. They go to Hikari to solve their doubts. Hikari says that boys at Christmas time are more sensitive because of the red color in the atmosphere. Hikari takes the opportunity to sabotage things for the main character, saying that she was also invited by a guy in the same way, making Kyoko leave very hurt. The girls have to console her, but Kyoko is convinced that our protagonist would not be able to do such a thing, and in the evening the girl starts to knit in order to calm her nerves. Kyoko almost gets run over by a truck because of her absent-minded walking, but is saved by the main character at the last moment. After this incident, they continue walking together, so Kyoko takes the opportunity to ask Cammy if he has asked someone else out. The protagonist denies everything, indicating that after being rejected, he went out with Araki to the karaoke. There he met the girls. Araki asked them out, but is rejected in the whole face. Kyoko laughs at the situation. After that, she gives him the gift she made all night. It was a hand-knitted boxer. The protagonist is a little uncomfortable. Kyoko notices this and remembers the advice of her friends, which was that men would be encouraged if they showed her their panties. Already in the street, Kyoko criticizes him for running away from the place when she was paying, calling him a fool, because they only thought they were boyfriend and girlfriend. The protagonist is surprised, so Kyoko, to control the situation, changes the subject, saying that she has to go to continue with the Christmas decoration. Later, the club finishes all the tree decorations. The discipline president congratulates them for their great work. The main character and Kyoko are left alone, as the other two girls have gone to sleep for a while. Cammy is proud of how much Kyoko has matured in all this time. She asks what they are going to do tomorrow. Thanks to this, the girl remembers that she hasn't made tomorrow's cakes, so she runs quickly to make them. The protagonist walks home, passing by a park, and notices Ikuo with a mask, doing Gao-esser poses, on top of a small slide. Ikuo falls and hits the ground. The protagonist is very worried, together with Miyamae and her friend, who were also there, practicing a show. Ikuo tells that he has been rejected. He is crying inconsolably, but Cammy is proud of him because he went straight to the girl, and not everyone does that. The protagonist is motivated, and tries to calm his mind, but it is impossible. He takes the gift that Kyoko gave him to see him again. But to his bad luck, his sister enters, and when she sees the boxer, she misunderstands everything, thinking that he and her friend were close enough to give each other that kind of thing, so she leaves very uncomfortable to avoid the situation. Cammy continues to analyze the gift, realizing that this kind of gift is not very friendly, so she gets the necessary motivation to do everything possible this Christmas Eve. The festival begins, and the main character is very helpful in helping his club as much as possible, since it was his turn to cook the meat skewers. Thanks to his recipe, he is freed from the remaining work, giving him a free pass to be with Kyoko. We are with Kyoko, who is selling the cakes she has made with her club. She gives 2 cakes to a very tender elementary school girl. But at that moment, Kami arrives, saying that he needs to talk to her urgently. Kyoko avoids him, saying that he will finish late. But our protagonist doesn't mind saying that he will wait for whatever he has to wait for. Back at the Santis contest, the winner is Miyamae with a Gao Esser-inspired costume, beating Hikari. The main character notices a couple who escaped into the corridors to kiss each other. Meanwhile, Kyoko is with her club resting, eating a little, since they sold all the cakes and she's on her way to celebrate. Kyoko is thankful for their company, since, thanks to them, Kamita has realized that she is no longer a simple girl, and treats her differently. The club president orders her to go and confront Kamita, instead of simply avoiding him, so that he can demonstrate everything he has learned at the club. Kyoko realizes that he is spying on her and kicks him for being morbid. They go to the rooftop where the protagonist confesses that he has not been able to sleep because he has not been able to stop thinking about a little person. Kyoko blushes because he clearly refers to her. The girl doesn't know how to react, so she evades the question for the moment, sitting down to eat with the protagonist. As the chair is so cold, he pulls out the knitted boxer so that she can sit on it. The girl is annoyed because she doesn't have it on, but lets it go. She sits on the middle of the protagonist's legs, as she won't make him stand the cold for her. Kami is very nervous. She avoids at all costs to get her little friend all fussed up. The girl is in the same mood, so they decide to talk about what happened in the laundry store. The protagonist speaks, because he was having a hard time, as he thinks it was wrong to see her in a morbid way, but thanks to this he stopped seeing her as a simple sister and now he sees her as a woman. Kamita tries to change this uncomfortable moment by eating a little, but inadvertently ends up touching her leg. The girl is surprised, so she stands up to clear everything up since they can't go on like this. The protagonist grabs her arm so he can hug her, and in her arms he proposes to her. When they propose, and with the background of the fireworks, they kiss and start their relationship. This whole scene is being watched by the girls in the club, from afar. 10 years have passed and this couple has been doing great. The main character is a manga editor. They also have a beautiful and spoiled daughter, and they are a happy family.